Yes, it's true. I don't know what I'm doing. You could probably hear me clicking around and tapping on things, and because I've yet to figure out just what this streaming stuff is all about. And so I'm making a lot of, I'm sure, classic mistakes. We're all beginners at something, right? So, hello, my name is David Neal, and welcome to yet another Twitch stream. And today we're talking about doodles and sketch notes and so forth. And I am glad that you are here, that you are joining me. Um, I don't have a real, well thought out agenda, um, other than just getting to doodling some stuff. Um, at any time, I've got the stream chat open on my screen. If I pay attention, I will answer any questions that you have regarding the things that I'm talking about or covering, or questions, any random questions you want to ask me about what I do, and software that I use, and um, my career, my life, whatever. I guess anything's up for grabs when you're live streaming, right? Um, I hope you can hear me okay. It would be awesome if someone could give me a thumbs up, or let me know if things are coming across okay. I know there's some delay between the things that I'm saying and when they actually show up in the stream. Um, so I'm going to wait a few more minutes to see if other people join, and before I get into um, doing some actual drawing and doodling on my iPad. So what can we talk about? Well, I hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend. We had some, um, we had a great time yesterday, just hanging out with some friends, socially distanced, of course, out in the yard. Um, I we had kind of a picnic out there, and we just shared some life, and uh, they've got a couple of young kids, and it's a lot of fun to see them run around and explore, and their imaginations and the things that they come up with, just the most random, crazy, uh, beautiful things that young minds come up with. Um, it's a lot of, yeah. It reminds me of when my kids were younger, and just the delight, if you just take a moment to think about it. Um, the Chris say whatever comes to mind, and play with whatever comes to mind. And the older I get, the more I realize, the more I think, well, man, we as adults need to be more like that too. We need to express ourselves and enjoy every moment, um, and to fill our time with creativity and laughter and joy, and look for the wonders that are all around us. From the things that are just in the grass, right? The little bugs, the little bit of everything. Um, Man, there's so much in this wonderful world to be thankful for, and to enjoy. Well, thank you for joining, and again, if you have any questions or anything you want to post in the chat, I'd love to hear from you. one of the things I miss so much about getting out and traveling and going to meetups and speaking at conferences. I do enjoy sharing um, stories and messages and things that I think are uh, things that people need to hear. Encouragement and things that I've learned. Some things I've learned the hard way, um, that I want others to avoid, or things that I've discovered later in life that I think are amazing, that people ought to do, or to incorporate into their lives. But the one thing I've realized about once I've started streaming is that that component of connection with other people. The thing I love about going to like a meetup, is what happens after a presentation. It's the opportunity to get to know other people. It's sharing stories. It's getting to know the real the real people, the real where the rubber hits the road. It's not just me standing up and telling people, "Hey, I think you should do this," or "I think you should try this," but it's like people sharing with me stories about what they're struggling with at work or at home, or uh, in their endeavors to learn technology or programming, or whatever it is. And just the opportunity to share with them how I've personally overcome some of those struggles, and maybe that is an encouragement, or helps them. Lee, thanks for joining. Yeah, late night build was a whole lot of fun. I sure did enjoy that, and yeah, glad to see you're on the on my stream. Thanks for joining. Um, so in this particular stream, I wanted to cover some things about doodling and sketch notes, that I think are relevant to anyone and everyone. Um, a little bit about my story is, it was 5 years ago. I was struggling as a speaker to make more of an impact on audiences. I knew people liked me as a speaker. I got good reviews and good feedback. And hey, Sean, good to see you too. Yeah, I am streaming now, as you can see. I'm starting to get into this, and hope I'm enjoying it so far. So I was looking for a way to engage audiences in a better way, to be a more comfortable speaker, to be to use more of my humor, but most of all, I just felt like, hey, I was giving some good information to folks, but I just didn't seem to be having the impact that I really wanted to have. And so I came across this guy named Dan Rome, who's written several books on the power of hand-drawn illustrations, and I was blown away by the things he had to say about it, and I knew that I wanted to try it. I wanted to try creating some hand-drawn illustrations and add those to my talks, and man, it totally transformed everything that I do. Once I started doing it, I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the benefits, um, and there are numerous benefits of incorporating drawing into your work, which I'll cover some of those in a moment. Um, and I I first of all, I want to, before we even go and look at doing some drawings, I want you to know that I truly believe that anyone can draw. When I started drawing, so I guess to give you a bigger picture, we probably all drew as children, right? Crayons and so forth. We didn't, you know, it didn't matter how good or bad it looked. We just enjoyed drawing things. Like I remember a boat that I drew when I was little, and with crayons. And what I remember about that is not that I did such a great job drawing a boat. I remembered my teacher just giving me all kinds of encouragement. That she was so excited to see my poorly drawn boat that it made me feel good. And when I was in second grade, I remember I started to doodle on my papers. And the teacher that I had in second grade, her name was Mrs. Nichols, Miss Nichols. She was not married. She was fresh out of college. It was her first year teaching, and she was just full of energy and enthusiasm. And she saw my doodles on my papers, and she thought they were fantastic. And she encouraged me to be creative. And so, with that positive feedback, I doodled on most of my work. I would put a smiley face or put something on there that I hoped that she would see and would make her happy, because I loved her reactions to the things that I drew. And then third grade, I had the opposite teacher. I had Mrs. Patterson, who was probably 30 or more years into her teaching career. And when I tried doodling on any of my work, she was not happy about it. And yeah, yeah, I can see the chat. Thank you, Ghost Cinnamon Toast. Nice handle there. Yeah, anyone can draw. I truly believe that. And so Mrs. Patterson, she did not like me drawing on my papers. And so what I learned from her was that, well, it's not for everyone. And what it taught me was, well, I enjoy this, but I'm not going to draw on any of the papers that I turn into her. It didn't stop me from drawing. But fast forward, on into middle school, I was doodling and drawing on things, and somewhere along the way, I lost that discipline. I lost that joy. As I got older, especially after I got out of high school and started to have a family and a career and all those things, I stopped drawing completely. And I would, occasionally draw like a goofy smiley face on one of my kids' birthday cards or something like that. But yeah, I stopped drawing for a long time. And that's a shame, because once as I said before, about 5 years ago, when I discovered this guy, Dan Rome, talking about hand drawn sketches, I was like, man, I want to be able to do that. I love when I see other people's drawings. I want to be able to draw too. I want to be able to do that kind of stuff. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to, no matter how bad it is, I'm going to try it. And I did. And my first talk that I gave after making that decision 5 years ago was a talk on Kanban. And I had these poorly drawn stick figures, and I used lines and arrows and basic shapes, and it was phenomenal. The drawings were terrible, but the reaction to all that was just unbelievable compared to all the talks that I'd given up to that point. The reaction was just blew my mind, and I knew from that point forward that this is what I wanted to do, and this is the way I wanted to communicate, and I wanted to incorporate drawing more and more into my things. Yep. My teacher who told me I couldn't draw was an art teacher in sixth grade. Man, that that's terrible. Um, I hope you've overcome your jerk teacher. Good grief. And drawing stick figures, man, that's how I started. Um, Stick figures are a great way to show action and emotion and, you know, work and lots of different things. I still use stick figures in a lot of my drawings because they're easy to create and they communicate so much. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to play any guitar today, but who knows? I do have a guitar in here. Um, but I hope at some point um, to have maybe a as part of this Twitch channel, maybe at a different time of the week, um, to cover other things besides drawing, to cover, you know, my interest in music and music technology, my interest in technology. My career is I am a software developer, and you know, all these other things are kind of like hobbies that I enjoy doing, that I try to incorporate as much into my career as I can. That's the cool thing, right? Is that there doesn't have to be a complete separation. You know, we're a whole person, right? So the things that interest us ought to bleed over into our work and our relationships and our career. So anytime I get to pick up a guitar and as part of work, man, what an amazing opportunity. Doesn't happen very often, but I sure do. I sure do relish those kinds of opportunities. And the same goes for drawing. Um, I do a lot more drawing now as part of my job because people know that they can, you know, ask me to draw things for them for like a blog post or a video that they're creating, and I'm more than willing to create whatever kind of stuff they want to help them. A semi accent from home state, southern accent. Yeah, so I grew up in Georgia. My accent is I'm actually not speaking quite as southern as I could. I lived in Georgia. I grew up in Georgia. I lived in Tennessee for over 20 years in the Nashville area. Some years ago, we moved back to Georgia to help take care of some family. And it was then that I realized, after having lived in Nashville, which, you know, is kind of country, but it's also a very cosmopolitan place. You know, people from all over the world move and live in Nashville, attracted to Nashville. Nashville is one of my favorite places of all time. It's kind of like still home to me. Anyway, moving back to Georgia is when I realized just how country people can talk. I'd kind of forgotten just how southern we can be around here. It can get quite thick and quite unintelligible. I love it. Yeah, Gwinnett County, close to Atlanta, right? I live in North Georgia, close to Tennessee. But you don't have to cleanse yourself of the accent because people actually love it. I've spoken overseas, and people love my southern accent. You know, I'm afraid that it's going to make me sound unintelligent, right? Like I don't know what I'm talking about. But some folks really find it endearing. All right. let's get to some drawing, because if not, I won't get to I won't cover as much stuff as I want to. I'll switch cameras here, and you should now see my iPad, and I've got Sketches Pro up here. So the app that I'm going to use today is called Sketches Pro, and by Taya Sui. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it or not. It's one of my favorite apps for drawing, and it's the one that I use for most of the slides that I create for my presentations, and it's the one that I use for doing sketch notes most of the time. And this is just one of the folders that I have on in this app, and you can see some of my doodles and drawings that I've created. Like I created this one last week, my certificate of incompletion. I'm so good at failing to follow through on a lot of projects that I thought, you know what, people need to know that they're not alone. I know I'm not alone, although I feel like it sometimes. Like everybody's more productive than I am, but good grief, I am yes, a professional procrastinator, a professional crastinator. Yes, procrastinator. I am a pro at failing to, I love the little touches like this seal of disappointment. Thumbs up. You did a good job. So this app I absolutely love. There's a free version of it. The paid version I think is only $5 or $10 in the App Store, and I think that this is also available for Android. I think they had a desktop version at one time. I don't know if they still do or not for the Mac. But I love this app because I love the tools that are in it. The ink pens and all these tools that are here on the left hand side, I just think are fantastic. There's ink and markers and pastels and acrylic paints, and it's just really awesome. Yeah. There should have been someone shrugging in the seal instead of the thumbs up. Yeah, I thought about different ways to express that. So I'm going to start us off by, the thing that I wanted to cover today is not so much all the techniques and the elements of doodling and sketch notes. I really just wanted to build a case for why you would want to do sketch notes and doodles in the first place, and some of the benefits of, you're a grown adult now. I'm guessing most of you that are watching this, and maybe you stopped drawing. Maybe I can almost guarantee that all of us drew some crayons and so forth when we were young, but maybe somewhere along the way we stopped. And Lee, the name of the app is Sketches Pro by Taya Sui. If you look down here in this in the bottom here, I'll also bring it up in my drawing folder. It's called Sketches Pro, and yeah, it's only maybe $5 if you buy the paid version. I think there's a free version, but the Sketches Pro is the paid version, and it adds more tools and more features and layers and other things that you're gonna probably want to have. So let me start off by just creating a title for this, and we'll say this is benefits of Doodles. And the nice thing about digital is that you can, you know, use the tools that are available to do erasing and rearranging of elements on the screen, and cut and paste. You can make things small and big. Um, some people would argue that you need to use real pen and paper because you can't correct your mistakes, and some of that perfectionism might kick in. And but I enjoy doing digital art because I love the tools that are available, and I can easily undo and redo things, and take advantage of what's there. Um, so select this whole thing again, make it smaller, and let's draw a banner around it. My drawing's a little bit awkward because of the camera. I'm having to not draw quite as naturally as I usually do. But hopefully that'll come across. So easy way to create a banner. So the benefits of drawing doodles and sketches, before I do anything else, I want to reemphasize again that art there's no such thing as bad art. Um, I want you to know whatever you can draw, whatever you can put from from pen to paper, that's between you and and the paper, and you don't have to share that with anyone, but it's it's okay to share that with people. I think there's benefit in learning in the open, and that's one of the things that kept me going and accountable when I started drawing it. And I would, whatever it was that I drew, I would post that to Twitter or other places to get people's feedback. And by and large, people's reactions to things, no matter how bad they were pretty positive. It's because hand drawn stuff is visually interesting, and regardless if it's poorly drawn or not, people find it fascinating, and it's unique. Your personality comes out in your drawings, whether you realize it or not, and people love to see that uniqueness. So the main thing that I want to, um, I guess, emphasize during this is that drawing engages your brain. Try to draw. Sometimes these cogs turn out okay, and sometimes they don't. Um, but that's okay. I'm going to create another layer up above here and draw another cog. And another one. Could be here all day drawing cogs. drawing engages our brains in lots and lots of different ways. And whenever we draw, I don't have like the reference to cite you right now, but there's been research done that proves that there's something unique about putting pen to paper and drawing things that we think about that engages so much more of our brains than if we were like taking dictation and typing things in. Like if we're typing at a keyboard and we're either taking notes or we're writing an email, writing a message, we are engaging our brains when we do that, but compared to actually drawing pen to paper or pen to tablet, there's a magnitude of difference. And the benefits of that go along with this are incredible. So in addition to drawing, or the benefits of engaging our brains with drawing, one is I found that when I draw, that it affects my mood. If I take some time in the morning or whenever it is that I do it, and I draw, and I'm thinking about things that that are of interest to me, or things that I want to do, or maybe somebody has asked me to do a drawing, it does more than just engage my brain. It helps. It brings me, some matter of calm and peace. It boosts my attitude for that day or for a good while afterwards. And there was a sketch note meetup last week that I sat in on. It's the first one I've heard of and have done. And in that sketch note meetup, the person that was running it was talking about some using drawing and sketching as almost like a meditative tool. Doing things like drawing, maybe used to doodle on your paper at when you were in school. You just draw a bunch of I know I drew a lot of mazes and circular type drawings, and he was making the argument that doing that kind of thing where you're engaging your brain but you're also thinking about other things, you're just using the creative side of your brain to kind of bring focus and while you're thinking of other things. Yeah, it's kind of like art therapy, and there's a reason for that too. So drawing, one of the benefits of drawing is that it helps put you in a good place mentally. And whether it's you're drawing as part of, you're creating some doodles as you're taking notes, like in a meeting or something like that, that can help you to be, in a better frame of mind to engage with the rest of the team, or whatever, or put you in a better mood that's going to have effects that'll affect you, for the rest of the day. Another thing that drawing and, doodles and sketches, as you take notes in particular, is it helps you to listen. So I draw when you're taking notes for someone, someone that's speaking or talking, taking sketches of those are going to help you to listen much more intensely, because you're looking for keywords and, you know, important phrases, and, you know, these things that are going to be like, these are the things I need to remember, these are the things I need to latch on to. um, these, you know, helping to you to engage your brain when you're listening to someone has incredible benefits. um, it's easy to like put on a podcast and listen to it in the background while you're doing other things, but not much of that is actually getting through. Um, or if you're in a meeting and you're just kind of half listening and kind of zoning out and thinking of other things, thinking of your own work, you're not going to be, if you're not actively engaged in listening, you're going to miss a lot of things. And if you're sketchnoting someone who is talking, man, you are magnitudes more engaged, because you're listening so intently to know what it is that you need to take notes for. And that was the power of, you know, taking notes in school, right? Is that, you know, in order to write down the things that were important, you had to be really listening and really thinking about what was being said. And going right along with that is that when you're listening more intently, you are going to learn more. It's remarkable how much more we learn when we're actively engaged in listening. Um, when you're listening intensely and you're able to grasp more of the information that's being presented to you, you're going to retain that information, um, and you're going to be able to grasp more of the information that's being uh, given you. And my computer's uh, screensaver just kicked in. And I'm having a hard time remembering my password. Sorry about that. My company requires a password screensaver, and there's no way to disable that. Yeah, the keyboard I have is a one of those WASD, WASD mechanical keyboards. It's really loud. Not really good for streaming, I'm sure. I probably need to get a different keyboard if I'm going to stream any coding, because it's going to be really clacky. All right, so doodles and sketches help us to learn, and the flip side of that is doodles and sketch notes help us to remember things. When you're actively engaged in listening, and you are writing down notes with doodles on a piece of paper or in your sketch note or your tablet, whatever application you have. Um, it's amazing what how all right. Let me back up and say it this way. You know, when you're in school and the teacher would be explaining something to you and you're taking notes, right? And you're writing down just like keywords, phrases, maybe a quote or whatever. And then sometime later, either days later, weeks later, whenever, you go back and you look at those notes. There's something about the connections that we make in our memory when we put our hand to paper and we put our hand to drawing things or writing things down that creates a strong connection. I can go back and look at sketch notes that I created 4 years ago, and I can immediately recall details about that person's talk or a meeting or whatever that just blows my mind. It's because of that connection that's made when we draw things down. So the when I started drawing slides for the talks that I give, I found that as I'm drawing a slide, I'm thinking about all the things that I want to talk about regarding that particular slide. And when that drawing comes up on the screen, my brain has numerous connections to that drawing that help me to recall all the things that I wanted to say about that particular topic. It not only helps me to tell my story the way that I want to tell it, but also it helps me to remember the things that I wanted to say. It's just phenomenal the connection that's made. So another benefit of drawing and sketching is that it helps us with creative ideas. Because we're engaging more of our brain and more of our creative side of our brains, just in drawing out a process, drawing out things that we're trying to do, it helps us to come up with more creative solutions. Engages that part of our brain that is more creative and is going to help us to do a lot more interesting things. And yeah, it helps us to be more creative. Another benefit of doodling and sketching is that it helps us to communicate. Visual information is the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, that's a complete understatement. There is so much information that we can express through visual metaphors and visual information that would take us forever and probably wouldn't even have the same effect if we try to just verbally explain the things that we're trying to express. Visual information is just a amazing in what it can do to improve communication. One thing you can do in improving communication is that you can take something that's extremely complex, and through illustrations you can simplify it. Like for example, maybe you have a very complex process and you need to get from step A to step B. You can express those steps visually using using just simple shapes and arrows, and it's so much more effective than just talking alone. You can make your meetings much more efficient. You can express your concepts, say if you're giving a presentation or something, so much more effectively. Um, there's a lot of great books on the subject of doodling and sketchnoting and so forth, but around communication, there's a guy named Dan Rome who's written several books. One of them is called Show and Tell, where he talks about the benefits of using um, visualizations, hand-drawn visualizations, to communicate ideas to people and to have much more effective presentations. And then he's got another book called Draw to Win, which he makes the argument that drawing and visual metaphors and all things not only helps you to communicate better, but also makes you more effective in communication, where as a business you have an advantage over someone else. Like you're expressing things so well that you gain trust, and um you know you're the winner in a lot of these engagements, because you can do a much better job. And so one of the things that I think also go along with all of these is that not only, I'm going to rearrange some of this stuff to give myself more room. Not only does it have all these benefits that we're talking about, that it engages our brains and helps us to be more creative and all this stuff, I truly believe that drawing also helps us to engage. If I can find the right tools. Something's not right. I guess I accidentally changed the size. Oh, that's terrible. And I've been telling you that it's not. There's no such thing as bad art. Well, I'm showing you right now. Here's bad art, but it's okay. So, drawing not only engages our brains, it engages our hearts too. There's emotional connections that are made. The expressions, facial expressions that we can create with different stick figures are going to trigger empathy with people who are looking at the drawings that we create. It's going to actually, trigger emotions within us as we're expressing things that we're trying to draw. And emotional connections are extremely powerful. We're not just robots. We're as much as we try to be very methodical, and especially those of us in technology who are doing things like programming, everything's there's precision, there's disciplines, there's methodology, there's practices and principles, there's all this kind of rules and things that we put into the software that we create. We have to be very analytical, but at the same time, no one is 100% analytical. There's, you know, there's parts of us that are still emotional, and we need to we crave that. So um, the drawing side of things helps to engage our emotional side of things as well, our personality, our character, our all these things kind of come out into our drawings. That's one of the things we love about seeing other people's drawings, is that part of their personality and their emotion comes out in the things that we draw. Okay, to answer some questions back on the Twitch stream, the colors switch keys that I have, I think I have the uh, blue, MX blue. I think those are the clacky, clicky, really loud switches. The browns are, they still have a tactile click to them, but they're not, or they make a sound when you press them, but they don't have that real crisp clack that a clacky keyboard can have. So yeah, it's matter of preference what you might like. Advice on finding and creating symbols for abstract terms. Yeah, Sean, that's an important thing to do. Is that as you are learning to draw, if you're drawing, especially for technical things, such as conferences that you go to or whatever, it's important to have a bit of a visual vocabulary, and that's something that I hope to cover in a future stream, is icons and iconography, things that we can learn that are kind of go-tos for expressing things like, oh, well, I need to use I don't know, a magnifying glass for to, when I'm searching for something, or some kind of world icon when I'm talking about the internet, or a home icon when I'm talking about when somebody's talking about a home page. So icons are an important thing to kind of build up a repertoire of those things so that you can quickly put those on paper. You don't have to have them though. What you can do is that if you are taking sketch notes, and you can't think of maybe an icon that goes along with a particular topic, is leave space for an icon and come back and draw it later. Let's see. What tips do you have for if you're a perfectionist, so you end up being focused on doodling and not end up being productive? Um, well, let's see. So everything that I do, what I've kind of have learned, yeah, certainly less is more, but also like this idea of kind of forgiving yourself, like there you have to know your limitations, and there's a law of diminishing returns. Like if you continue to focus on trying to get something perfect, it's just not going to. Usually the first thing you can think of is the best thing. The quickest thing you can draw is better than not being able to complete a whole drawing or something like that. Yeah, it just takes some discipline and kind of forgiving yourself. Like, you know what, this communicates the idea that I want, and then move on from there. Interprocess communications could be difficult to draw. Yeah, let me think about that. And maybe for the next stream or whenever we talk about icons and expressing ideas, maybe maybe I can think of a good way to do that. Um, Inter-process communication. So we got two endpoints, and but we're inside a bigger process. I don't know. I'll try to come up with some ideas on how to express inter-process communication. Um, NPM code, or you like to draw, want to draw like NPM or code, but kind of hard to draw, kind of making comics instead. Yeah, there's no rules, right, to drawing. Um, there are styles out there. Like I see other people, things that other people draw, and I'm like, man, that's really cool. I wish I could draw that. Um, I could. It's like I could study someone else's style and and try to mimic the way that they draw things, and maybe that becomes part of my vocabulary. Maybe I pick up a technique or something that I start to use in my own drawings. Um, so yeah, and comics um, are just using stick figures and things like that again are is a very powerful way to express ideas and express interactions between people and between peoples and machines and all that good stuff. Well, I think that about wraps up our time together. It's almost 11:30 Eastern time, which is right at the hour for this Twitch stream, and I've got other things that unfortunately I have to do, and I'm sure you have other things that you need to do. I hope this time together was an encouragement to you. I'll post this drawing um, and on Twitter, and this video will be saved on the Twitch stream for a while. I'll also save it to my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to my Twitch stream here and to my YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitter so that you can see the silly things that I create and tweet about. And I hope this was an encouragement to you that maybe spark some interest into getting into drawing again if you haven't done it in a while since you were young. There are so many benefits that I have found of doing doodles and sketches and sketch notes and expressing ideas. As I said before, it helps you, it engages your brain, it engages your heart, it helps you to listen more intensely, helps you to learn, helps you to remember things, helps you to be more creative and come up with more creative ideas, helps you to communicate with others, helps you to express really complex things in a simple way that are much more understandable when you can use visual metaphors to kind of map information from one thing to another. And yeah, it can put you in a much better mood. Like I'm already in a much better mood today than I was when I got up this morning, because I've had a chance to do some drawing and ready to tackle the rest of the things that I need to do today. So, as always, thank you for choosing to spend some time with me, and I encourage you that you do not need permission to be awesome. You take the stuff that you're learning and you get out there and you do amazing things and share it with the rest of the world so that we can see what awesome things you're doing. I'd love to hear about them. With that, thank you. Yeah, I hope the camera quality is good because I have put way too much money into setting up all these things. You're welcome. And Look forward to meeting with you on the next stream. Probably next Monday for drawing, but I may start up another stream schedule for other things. Just be on the lookout. Y'all have a blessed day.